going on, everybody? Welcome back to the show. This is the Science Dispatch podcast. I'm Cameron English. That is Dr. Chuck Dinnerstein, Director of Medicine at the American Council on Science and Health. What's going on, Chuck?
Not a blessed thing. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. My wife says that I'm going on a cruise of the Caribbean. I'm not going close to Venezuela, so I'm pretty happy.
There you go. So no freak bombings or terrorism incidents in your near future?
I'm just, I was saying maybe they'll just put some kind of markage on the boat saying that it carries no drugs, but since everybody's in my age group, that would be a lie. But I don't know what they would do with all the digoxin and Lasix.
Of course, you guys are all on blood thinners. I'm only kidding, everybody. All right, we're going to get right down to business here. We have a greatest hits topic, I dare say, talking about artificial sweeteners. This is by one of our outside contributors. Chuck, you got to help me with his last name. Mauro... Proença. He's from Brazil, I want to say.
Down in Brazil, man.
Down in Brazil. He's a great writer. He's got a lot of good insights on various nutrition topics. I've learned a lot from his content since he started writing for us. Articles called Neither Heroes Nor Villains, The Uncomfortable Truth About Artificial Sweeteners. Here's the summary, Chuck, and then let's break down some of the details. So he writes, artificial sweeteners have long been cast as either miracle weight loss allies or metabolic saboteurs, but the science is far less dramatic and far more nuanced. Non-sugar sweeteners have shaped diets worldwide, even as public confidence has begun to wobble. New data suggests they're largely safe and may modestly support weight loss when paired with an overall healthier diet, but they're no magic fix, just tools whose benefits depend entirely on how and why we use them. All right, that's a pretty apt summary, but tell us a little bit more, Doctor.
So this was a study done in Brazil. That's, I guess, part of why Mauro decided to report on it, looking at civil servants, very much like our NHANES National Health surveys, where they looked at a group of people between the ages of 35 and 74, and they asked them about their diet, and then used that information to follow them longitudinally over the next several years to see how their health changed. And in this case, part of the dumpster diving into the data was to look at low-calorie and non-nutritive sweeteners and to see what their role is with dementia. So, of course, their finding was that using these sweeteners reduced your life or aged you by 1.6 years was just too good of a headline for a lot of the media to avoid. So that became a headline that the sweet and lows of the world are now responsible for causing us to be increasingly demented over time. And so then Mauro goes ahead and he goes through the study. And let me just get to the highlights here. One of the flaws with the studies, and it's probably the biggest flaw, is about 75% of the participants dropped out over time. So in terms of a sample size, it's an interesting report. It's more than a case report of one, but it's certainly not the 15,000 individuals that they started with. The second problem with the study, and this has been a problem with a lot of these longitudinal studies that look at diet, is they only asked about your diet once at the beginning of the study with the belief somehow that your diet didn't change over the next 15 or 20 years. So I would say certainly my diet has shifted over that time. It certainly took a big change from when I was a bachelor to being when I was married, and when I went from... If I filled it out when I was being a bachelor, it would look far different than at this point when somebody else is in charge of my diet and tells me what I'm going to be eating.
I will say I shotgun far fewer cheap beers now that I'm married and I have 2 children.
Okay. Yep.
Just backing up your point there. Keep going.
Right. And to the same point, I would just say that since I'm no longer driving from hospital to hospital, I don't have the chance to go to Taco Bell and the drive-through at McDonald's any longer. So there's that. In any case, the second flaw, as I said, is that they only captured the dietary data at the beginning of the study. But what they did find was that they did find, based on some cognitive testing, that patients that used sweeteners in the highest percentile, it's always the highest percentile compared to the lowest percentile, definitely showed some decreased cognitive function. But what Morrow points out, and I think is probably the most important point of the study, was that when you further broke down that group of people that were taking the sweeteners, it turns out that this was more an effect of diabetes than it was an effect necessarily of the sweeteners. Because when you looked at the people with diabetes that were using the sweeteners, this is where you saw the most dramatic changes in cognition. So it really may not be that the sweeteners are the cause so much as that they are a, air quote time, biomarker for diabetes and the ravages of diabetes on your microcirculation, which could definitely cause problems with dementia.
Chuck, I feel like we're at that place where we always end up, and it seems that a little common sense could settle this. We don't need any highfalutin clinical trials. We don't even need these number crunching epidemiological studies, right? If you're trying to lose weight, what the hell? Put this in your coffee instead of sugar. It might do you a little bit of good. And then make a few other changes to your life. Like it just, we come up with all these fancy metabolic explanations. Well, it fools your metabolism and it makes you super hungry because it's sweet. So your body's expecting sugar and blah. It's like, enough.
Right. Well, all these explanations follow after the results are there. And what you don't have in there, for instance, to your point, if most of the people are using these non-nutritive sweeteners in order to lose weight, is you haven't done the other side and said, if we look at the people that lost weight, how did they do on dementia? Perhaps when you cut the numbers in a different direction, you'll see a very different result. So I agree. It's just, we're back to the usual things. You need a balanced diet, nothing in excess, everything in reasonable moderation, and you're going to do fine. Nobody's going to get out of this alive. That's the bottom line of the story. And I don't think that with very limited exceptions, you can eat your way to health.
Yeah.
Unless you have scurvy.
I mean, yes, that's a good point, right? If there's a definite condition that you're trying to eliminate or minimize the risk of, then diet helps. But it's not, as you said, right? You're not going to open the keys to heaven if you eat just the right amount of fruit and veg. It just doesn't. You know what I mean? I think we're just bored as a society. Not to get all philosophical here, but we've run out of. I'm reading a book right now about.
Always dangerous.
Russia yes, very, very dangerous. Reading will challenge you. But the deprivations people endured under Stalin's regime in Russia during World War II, just levels of horror and suffering that no American, as poor as some of us may be, could even possibly imagine. You know what I mean? Like real suffering. And we don't have any of that, thankfully, today. And so we come up with these idiotic things like, are the sweeteners, giving us dementia? Are the pesticides, blah, blah, blah. It's just like, oh man, Chuck,
Well, we are sniping around the edges trying to move it from 2% to 1%. And that last mile is always difficult
to
do. Now, an interesting thing that I just ran across today is that there is a non-nutritive sugar naturally occurring, tagalose, I believe, is its name. It's far sweeter than glucose and has half as many calories, and is a natural sugar found in nature, so it's good. Unfortunately, it's made in minute amounts, but a group of scientists have taken our new metabolic machinery, in this case E. coli, and taught it how to make it. And they think that this could become another new non-nutritive sweetener that can be made in bulk once they've finished teaching the E. coli how to do this. So I thought it was very fascinating to see that on one hand, we have people quite concerned about the effect of it, and on the other side, we have scientists that are not associated with big food, busily trying to find other sources of sugar for us.
As we wrap up here, unless there's more you want to add, I don't know that there's much more to say about this research.
Highlights.
Go read Morrow's article if you're curious about this. There's really good stuff in there. But one of the co-founders of our organization, Dr. Fred Stair, I didn't know this until a few years ago. He was doing relief work in Holland after World War II. And he saw, much to my point about Stalin, right? He saw people starving to death. And he got done with that little tour he was doing. He came back to the United States and everyone's whining about, food and sugar and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, you know what? I think he was on a TV interview and he just said, just don't eat so damn much. It's really not that complicated. You know what I mean? It's it's just a lack of perspective, I think. And Dr. Stair gets maligned far too much these days by gullible reporters. But I think that really sums up just chill out. That's all I got, Dr. Dinnerstein. Your thoughts?
I'm there. You can't. I'm always amazed by the quantification of our health, and the rise of the wearables and all the various measures and biomarkers that people are looking at in an attempt to cheat death. And I just, I think that you can do things dietarily that are unwise, but when you look at the number of diseases that can kill us compared to the number of diseases that are actually impacted by our diet, you're only addressing one or two of them. They happen to be big players in the U.S. because we've dealt with most of the infectious diseases and we've dealt with a lot of the trauma problems. So cardiovascular disease seems to be a big problem here. It's not such a big problem, say, in Kiev or this week in Tehran.
Yeah. That's right. If someone throws a Molotov cocktail through the window of the bus you're on, you have a bigger problem than artificial sweeteners. So, yeah, take that as a bit of context. Once again, Morrow's article is called "Neither Heroes Nor Villains: The Uncomfortable Truth About Artificial Sweeteners." That is at acsh.org. While you're there, click the subscribe tab, punch in your email address. We'll send you the stories we publish. The ones you read are usually the ones that we talk about right here. Be sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and X, of course, and YouTube. ACSH Matter of Facts is the title there, hosted by our colleague Anna Delaski. We are at acsh.org on X. Thank you so much, as always, and we will see you next time.